Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rising Sign Astrology. So, we've got a new moon in Cancer happening on June 25th, and it's not your average reset. This one is happening at 4 degrees of Cancer, conjunct Jupiter, who just entered Cancer for the first time in 12 years. This is a new moon of hope, expansion, and emotional renewal. It's planting seeds that will grow for the next 6 months until the Cancer full moon in January of 2026. But don't get lost in the dream just yet, because this new moon is squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So while the optimism is real, there's also a need to stay grounded, structured, and clear about what's actually possible. In this video, I'll break down exactly how this energy will play out for each sign. Now, for the most accurate insights, start with your rising sign. That's where the new moon is actually activating your chart. Then check the sun sign for themes around identity and purpose, and also your moon sign for how this may affect you emotionally or more on an internal level. Also check for home. And of course, if you enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel or tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming up next. And a like or a quick comment really helps push this video out to more people who love astrology. So it really helps with the algorithm. And if you're ever looking for a personal reading, whether it's love, relationship, career, or just a general forecast look ahead, you can find the full booking details in the description below. All right, let's jump into it. Aries rising. So for you, the new moon in Cancer on June 25th is landing in your 4th house of home, family, roots, and emotional security. This is a powerful time to set intentions around what home really means for you, both physically and emotionally. You might be thinking about buying a home or renovating your space. Perhaps you're considering moving or just creating a more stable living environment. It could also bring up a deeper desire to reconnect with family at this time or heal from past patterns, even create a stronger foundation for the life you're building. But because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer and exactly conjunct this new moon, there's a wave of emotional optimism coming in. You might feel ready to expand your home in some way, either literally or metaphorically. Maybe you're starting to dream of a bigger place or a better neighborhood, or even starting a family, or deepening the bonds with an existing one. And over the next 6 months, this seed will grow. And by the time the full moon in Cancer arrives in January of 2026, you could see real results, right? Maybe you've closed on a home by then, or mended a long-standing family rift, or finally feel at peace in your private life in a way that you haven't in years. But here's the thing. You also have Saturn and Neptune squaring this new moon from your 1st house. That's your identity, your body, your energy. So while the vision for emotional security and home life feels rich and hopeful, the reality check is that you might not be fully ready to carry it all just yet. Right? Saturn is testing your endurance and asking you to slow down, define yourself more clearly, and take responsibility for your own path. And Neptune might be making it hard to see yourself clearly right now, right? You may be idealizing who you think you need to be to deserve that dream life. So be mindful of overpromising to yourself or others at this time. And over the next 6 months, one of your biggest lessons will be learning how to balance the emotional growth with your personal boundaries, right? You may crave closeness or comfort, but just find yourself drained if you don't also carve out space for your independence or even a need for healing. So progress may come slower than you'd like, but steady wins the day here, right? If you stay grounded and take care of your physical and mental health and stay honest about your limits, the dream that you're planting now can grow into something real and nourishing. So as you move through this new moon, get clear about what kind of home you truly want and what kind of person you're becoming who will live in it. Because these next 6 months are about building something personal, private, and lasting, right? This is Saturn. And you're not just creating shelter. you're laying down roots for a more stable future in general. So really don't skip the step where you check in with yourself. So if this resonates with you, or you have ideas about how this new moon is going to play out for you, or maybe any plans you're beginning to hatch at this time, please drop a comment below and let me know. And good luck. Okay, Taurus rising. So if you're a Taurus rising, the new moon in Cancer on June 25th lands in your third house, the area of your life that rules communication, learning, short-term travel, siblings, and your everyday mindset. This is a time to set clear, tangible intentions around how you express yourself and how you structure your daily mental life. You may feel the urge to start a new writing project at this time, or a podcast, or learn a new skill, right? Perhaps launch a YouTube channel or a new social media series, or just simply communicate with more intention. But there's also a practical side to this, right? Maybe you're planning to buy a car, or take more local trips, or reconnect with siblings or neighbors in a more meaningful way. And because this new moon is conjunct an exalted Jupiter, who just entered Cancer, there's an abundance of fresh ideas and optimism and intellectual inspiration coming in right now. You might feel like you're on the edge of a communication breakthrough. And if you've been thinking about putting yourself out there, whether through teaching or speaking or writing, this could be the spark that makes it happen. And over the next 6 months, you may watch that initial idea turn into something very concrete. And by January 2026, you can see that blog or podcast or YouTube channel or whatever it is for you up and running, right? Maybe that course launched, or those new connections with siblings or community are really starting to pay off in some way. But this momentum is not without complication, because the new moon is squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries, sitting in your 12th house. So this brings a more subtle, even hidden tension to the picture. The 12th house governs the subconscious, burnout, isolation, self-sabotage. So while your third house is lighting up with these new ideas and goals, your inner world may still be wrestling with fears or fatigue or even lack of clarity. And Saturn here asks you to set stronger inner boundaries. But Neptune may fog your ability to truly trust your instincts and could pull you towards escapism when things start to get hard. And this square is a reminder that not every idea has to become a project, and not every burst of energy you have in your third house should be poured into external output if you're running on empty behind the scenes. You need to rest, and you'll need to be honest with yourself about what is draining you emotionally or mentally, and make space for that rest or reflection. And if you need healing work, right, make space for that. Even as you're trying to build these new, communication pathways or new mental routines in the third house. So as you plant seeds at this new moon, I would do so with intention, but also thinking of sustainability. Because yes, it's time to speak and share and learn, right? And share all these ideas you have. But it's also time to clean up your mental closet and not let anxiety or self-sabotaging behaviors or addictions or just subconscious blocks run the show from behind the scenes. And what you say and how you say it over the next 6 months could open real doors. Just make sure that they're leading you towards peace and not more stress. So good luck, Taurus risings. If this is resonating with you, or you have ideas of how this is starting to play out for you already, please drop a comment below and let me know. I'd love to hear it. And good luck. Now, Gemini rising. So if you're a Gemini rising, then this new moon on June 25th in Cancer is activating your second house of money, income, self-worth, as well as material security. And this is a strong time to set intentions around how you earn, how you spend, and value your resources. You might be thinking about raising your rates at this time or even asking for a raise. Perhaps you're thinking about changing jobs or starting a side hustle or just finding ways to feel more financially secure. But it doesn't have to be just about money, right? This could also call attention to how deeply you value yourself and whether your income reflects your efforts and your skills. And with Jupiter exalted and conjunct this new moon, the financial seeds that you plant right now have real growth potential. You could be stepping into a new income stream, or developing a stronger sense of what it is you're actually worth, or finally putting into motion a long-standing goal related to stability. And over the next 6 months, you might see progress in the form of more consistent income or more clarity around what you need financially to feel safe. Or even the accumulation of something bigger, like you're building a savings buffer, or you acquire a new asset, or you finally establish a sustainable budget for yourself. Regardless of what it is, by the full moon in Cancer in January of 2026, you'll likely see a turning point in your financial story, right? Something that started as a quiet decision in June is going to start to show real results by then. But you have to be careful not to get swept away by the optimism just yet, because this new moon is forming a square to Saturn and Neptune in your 11th house of community, social connections, and long-term goals, dreams, and wishes for the future. So this tension suggests that while you're trying to build a stable foundation for yourself, you may also feel pressure from external expectations, like trying to live up to a certain image or feeling like you have to follow a specific group path. Maybe there's a tension with a certain circle of friends or colleagues, and you feel like you have to always please them. And Saturn here may force you to get more serious about your long-term goals and stop chasing some vague dreams that aren't aligned with what you need at this time. But Neptune in the 11th can make it very tempting to idealize, certain dreams or social or professional networks, right? And there's a risk of getting caught up in other people's dreams while losing sight of your own at this time. So you might want to say yes to everything and please everyone in your group. Or maybe you could just be questioning whether the goals that you've been chasing are really yours to begin with. And this square is trying to nudge and remind you that you're building now financially and you're building now emotionally, but for yourself, for your reality, not just your reputation within a group. So as you move through this new moon, you really need to get crystal clear about what kind of life you're trying to fund and who you're funding it for, right? And these next 6 months are about reclaiming your value on your terms. So yes, dream big, but make sure you're really grounding those dreams in choices that ultimately support your independence and reflect your actual real worth. So if this resonates with you, or you're noticing themes of this manifesting already, or you're starting to think about how you can plant seeds in this area, please drop a comment and let me know. And good luck. Okay, Cancer rising. So once again, you're the star of the show, and I feel like I've been saying this for every video, which I probably have. So yeah, if you're a Cancer rising, then the new moon on June 25th is happening in your first house, right? Which means this is a major personal reset. The first house rules your identity, your appearance, your energy, and just the way you initiate things in life. This new moon is all about you. You may feel ready to start a new chapter at this time, or just redefine who you are, and maybe show up finally and more fully as yourself. You could be setting intentions around your health or your personal style, or evaluating your confidence, or just deciding to stop playing small and step into your power. And with Jupiter exalted and conjunct this new moon, the potential for real lasting growth is huge, as long as you take yourself seriously. And It's a powerful time to put yourself first in a way that maybe you haven't been able to in a long time. And over the next 6 months, you may experience a transformation in how people perceive you or how you show up in your daily life. Maybe you're launching a new company and you're like the face of it, the personal brand behind it, or stepping into a new public facing leadership role. A lot of cancers are going to be starting a new fitness or wellness routine to take care of their body. Or maybe you're just finally claiming space within your relationships or work where maybe you used to shrink from the spotlight before. Whatever this means for you, by the time the full moon in Cancer arrives in January of 2026, you could feel like you finally and truly stepped into a new version of yourself. And others are going to see it as well. But there is a square to Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And this is your 10th house of career and public life. It's your public image. It's how people see you. So this is where things start to get more complex. While you're focused on personal growth and self-renewal, there's tension coming from your professional life. And Saturn in the 10th brings pressure and a lot of responsibility and a sense that you need to always prove yourself in your career. And Neptune here could be clouding clarity around your goals or causing some form of disillusionment with your current career path. You may be very inspired to change careers or feel like you need to dream bigger, but just unsure how to do that while still holding things together in the real world. And the square is asking you to be honest about how much of your identity is tied up in external success or how others see you. And you're being called to grow into a more empowered version of yourself. But if you try to mold that growth around outdated expectations or unclear ambitions, you're going to hit a wall. And it doesn't mean that you can't evolve in those areas, but it does mean that your personal changes may not be immediately supported by your current work situation. You may need to move more slowly at this time, right? This is Saturn, or adjust expectations, or just realize that you need to build a new long-term plan that actually aligns with this new person you're becoming in your first house. So as you set intentions under this new moon, I'd focus on what you want, not just what looks good on paper or what others expect from you. Because this is your moment to realign with who you are at the core. Even if the outer structures in your life don't recognize it yet and take time to catch up. And the next 6 months are about stepping into yourself unapologetically. Just don't forget to check in and make sure that your long-term direction is aligned as you do it. So good luck, Cancers. Drop a comment below and let me know what you're planning for the next 6 months. And if any of this resonated, good luck. Now, Leo rising. So for you, the new moon in Cancer on June 25th is landing in your 12th house, right? The most private, mysterious, internal part of the chart. This is the house of rest, retreat, healing, endings, self-sabotage, and also the unconscious. So it's a time to step back and unplug and check in with what's going on behind the scenes in your life. And this new moon can spark a desire to take your mental or spiritual health much more seriously at this time. You might feel called to let go of something that's just draining, like an old habit or a toxic connection, or even just the pressure to keep up appearances. You could be setting intentions to rest more or reduce screen time, to start therapy, maybe to start journaling more often, or dream work, or just carve out time for solitude on a regular basis. And with Jupiter conjunct this new moon, there's a hopeful and even liberating feeling around this, around making peace with your past and creating a new kind of inner stability for yourself. And over the next 6 months, you can make real progress in areas that maybe before and very often felt intangible, right? Like you're beginning to break subconscious patterns or healing from burnout or just finally finding a daily rhythm that supports not only you, but your nervous system. And maybe you decide to take a trip alone somewhere or a retreat or commit to, meditation or start, like as I said, recording your dreams and doing some dream analysis and dream work, you know. Um, as you commit to these things, by the full moon in Cancer in January of 2026, you may feel much lighter and more centered and just more grounded in your inner world and spirituality than you felt in a long time. But there's a square from Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and it's showing up in your ninth house of belief systems, education, and future vision. So while part of you is craving stillness and you know internal focus and spirituality, another part may feel very pressured to have to figure everything out, especially around what's next for you, right? You may have big dreams around traveling or going back to school or, writing a book. Perhaps there's some long held ambition, that you've been really dying to pursue. But the logistics may feel confusing or just slow to come together. And Saturn here is reminding you to build your goals brick by brick, not all at once. And Neptune, on the other hand, can really blur the line between what's fantasy and true inspiration. So, this tension between your 12th and ninth houses asks you to be honest about how your beliefs, your ideologies, and your long term goals might be distracting you from the real work that you need to do in terms of healing or rest. And it's going to remind you that sometimes the most productive thing that you can do for yourself is to stop forcing things, right? And allow, this present moment and this present chapter to fully close and take time to rest. You don't need to have all the answers right now or right away. The next 6 months are less about chasing your dreams and more about making sure that you're clear and rested, tapping into your spiritual side, and completely whole before you go after those dreams and start this next cycle. So, as you set intentions during this new moon, I would really think about restoration and imagine a quieter, behind the scenes kind of growth, right? Because it could be just as powerful. And let go of what's weighing on you spiritually or emotionally, even if it means pausing, like everything else going out in the world. Like this is a time for rest and rejuvenation and tapping back into your spiritual world. And the clarity about where you're going in life will come, but it's going to come through those 12th house themes, but only if you make the space to slow down and hear it. So, Leo risings, this should be an interesting time for you. I wish you luck, and if any of this resonates or you have an idea of how this is going to unfold for you, please drop a comment below and let me know. Good luck. Okay, Virgo rising. So if you're a Virgo, the new moon in Cancer on June 25th is lighting up your 11th house of friendships, community, networks, and long-term goals for the future. This is your chance to get really clear about the kind of people that you want around you, and also what kind of future you're building with their support. You might be setting intentions to join new communities at this time, or to grow your social network, or collaborate on a group project. Maybe even revive a dream that you've kept on the back burner. And whether it's launching a passion project, or trying to find your tribe or your people, or just aligning with the cause that matters to you, this new moon is calling you to think bigger, but also more personally. Because who you're doing it with is just as important as what it is you're doing. And that's really where the spotlight is being placed. Because this new moon is conjunct an exalted Jupiter. So there's a wave of hope and momentum in this area of life. You could feel ready to open up socially and to put yourself out there and say yes to new experiences and invitations, right? Maybe you start building a new online presence or join, a new interest group or simply reconnect with friends who actually uplift you. And over the next 6 months, those efforts can grow into something really meaningful. And by the full moon in Cancer in January of 2026, you could see a wish or a dream fulfilled, or, a new community formed, or a network that starts to support you in real, tangible ways. But all of this isn't happening in a vacuum. And the new moon is squaring Saturn and Neptune in your eighth house, the place that rules shared resources and trust and intimacy and vulnerability and just emotional depth. That means while you're trying to expand your social circle or chase these big goals, you might be hitting some internal walls around intimacy or fear of relying on others. And Saturn in the eighth can bring, financial or emotional entanglements to the surface. Things like debt, inheritance, joint finances, or control dynamics. And Neptune here can make it hard to fully trust others or see clearly, where your boundaries begin and end. It could also make it very difficult for you to see others clearly, or even for them to see you clearly. And this tension can show up as a hesitation to collaborate, right? Fear of not being supported, or just uncertainty about whether you can truly rely on people that you're trying to build with. It's very likely that you're going to be second guessing whether or not a shared investment, whether that's emotional, financial, or professional, is really worth it, or whether you can trust them. And the key here is to be very realistic about who's in your corner and what they're bringing to the table. You don't have to go it alone, but you do need to make sure that any partnerships or group efforts are rooted in mutual respect and you're looking at it with clarity. So, as you set intentions during this new moon, think long term, but make it personal, right? You could dream about the future that you want, but don't ignore the deeper emotional work that it takes to get there. And these next 6 months are about aligning your goals with the right people. And you need to be brave enough to trust, but discerning enough to know who you can trust, right? And during all of this, you're going to be guarding your boundaries. So you can let your vision and your dreams grow with all of this great energy that's coming to that part of the chart, but you really need to make sure that it's built on solid ground and you're entering into partnerships with people that you could rely on and trust. So, Virgos, good luck. If this resonated or you have an idea of how this is going to unfold for you, please drop a comment below and let me know. Take care. Okay, Libra rising. So, if you're a Libra rising, then the new moon in Cancer on June 25th is activating your 10th house of career, reputation, and long-term goals for the future. This is a very powerful moment to reset your professional direction and to set intentions around the legacy that you're trying to build. So whether you're looking to make a name for yourself, pivot careers, earn more recognition, or just take on more responsibility, this new moon wants you to get serious but also optimistic about where you're headed. Maybe you're eyeing a promotion or planning to launch a business, or simply trying to align your public life with a sense of deeper purpose. And the 10th house is about career, but it's also about your public image, right? It's how others see you. So it doesn't have to just be career. It could be, status in terms of relationship status. You could be, getting a divorce or getting married, So there could be themes of that for certain individuals as well. And with exalted Jupiter sitting right next to this new moon, the potential for expansion is real, especially in your career. So this could be the moment when you finally get real clarity about what you want and start moving towards it with confidence. And over the next 6 months, you might see doors opening, whether it's an exciting job opportunity or increased visibility or the confidence to take a bolder step professionally, perhaps into a leadership role. And by the full moon in Cancer in January of 2026, there's likely going to be a culmination moment, right? Either a career goal reached, or a leadership role assumed, or just a public milestone relating to your status in the world. But here's the catch. The new moon is squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries. This is your seventh house of relationships. So while you're focused on your personal ambitions and your public image and your status, tensions are likely to arise in your partnerships, whether that's romantic, business, or otherwise. And Saturn here is testing your commitments and the structure of your closest relationships. So while Neptune may be blurring boundaries or leaving you uncertain about where others truly stand, you might start to feel torn between chasing career growth or stepping into this new public image or status, that versus showing up fully in your relationships. There's a tension there. And you may be unsure whether those relationships are actually supportive of these 10th house goals. So I would assume that the square is going to reveal cracks in your partnerships, right? Where expectations are unclear or priorities are out of sync. And it's also possible that you're idealizing or over idealizing a relationship at this time, or trying to build your professional life around someone else's vision or timeline. And as you move forward, it's going to be crucial to communicate clearly and define roles as well as responsibilities, and not let confusion or even guilt derail your focus. Your ambitions don't have to come at the cost of your relationships, but you do need to make sure that you're building on solid ground, not fantasy, with this Neptunian influence. So as you plant seeds during this new moon, think really seriously about what success means to you and how your relationships fit into that vision. These next 6 months can bring real progress in your career and change how you're seen in the world from a public image status perspective. But they're also going to ask you to balance independence with interdependence. So you need to stay focused and very clear, and not be afraid to ask and evaluate, right, who's really in your corner as you're trying to step into this new role in the public sphere. So Libras, good luck. I think this is going to be, a big moment for a lot of you in your career, but also in your status. A lot of you could be getting divorced at this time. So let me know how this is playing out for you in the comments below, and good luck. Now, my Scorpio rising. So for you, the new moon in Cancer on June 25th is hitting your 9th house, right? The part of your chart that governs big picture expansive thinking and belief systems like religion, higher education, as well as travel, and just anything that expands your worldview. So this is a powerful time to set intentions around learning something new, or planning a trip, or pursuing a degree or certification. You may even be redefining your personal philosophy or your spiritual practice at this time, right? You may be feeling like pulled towards something that helps you break out of some routine that you're stuck in, and just see life from a higher vantage point. And with Jupiter exalted and conjunct this new moon, there's real growth potential in anything that stretches your mind or broadens your personal experience. Maybe you're finally signing up for that class or workshop, or pitching a writing project, or beginning to explore a new spiritual path, right? I think for a lot of you, you're going to be mapping out plans to travel abroad. And over the next 6 months, those initial steps could and very likely would evolve into something far more meaningful. So by the time the Cancer full moon arrives in January of 2026, you may have reached a turning point, right? A culmination or a graduation, perhaps a project completed, or just a major personal insight that shifts your direction. But the new moon is also squaring Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house, which governs your day-to-day life. It's your schedule, your responsibilities, your work, but maybe most importantly, your health. So while you're dreaming big and setting long-range goals, your current routines may not fully support those ambitions just yet. Saturn here may be making your workload heavier, or your health more sensitive, or just your time more limited. And Neptune is adding a fog, right? So it's going to be very easy to feel overwhelmed or disorganized or just unclear in that area of life, right? Work, routine, health, about how to actually get from point A to point B in order to unlock all of this great ninth house potential. So the square is in many ways a reality check. You can't just dream your way into growth. You need a schedule, you need structure, and you need discipline to back it up. So if you're planning to, to expand your skills or take on something bigger, you'll also need to tighten up your daily systems and make sure you're not running on fumes. And the challenge over the next 6 months will be to stay inspired while also tending to the practical stuff, like getting enough rest, tending to your health, exercising, staying organized, and not overcommitting because you're so enthusiastic about what's happening in your ninth house. So as you plant seeds under this new moon, think big, but keep it grounded as well, because this is a chance to redefine what expansion looks like for you, and it doesn't have to be all at once. If you're very clear-eyed and conscious about your energy levels and your health and your practical limits, then you'll be able to build something real and lasting. And the next 6 months can bring a major breakthrough in those areas, but you can't skip the step where you have to make space for it in your everyday life. So, Scorpios, good luck. Please drop a comment below and let me know how this is going and what you're seeing. I think for a lot of you, it's going to be about just balancing work life or just getting really in sync with your health and routines and exercising so you can dive into all of this ninth house expansion, whether it's in education or spirituality or, taking a trip abroad. So let us know how it's going and good luck. Okay, Sagittarius rising. So if you're Sag rising, the new moon in Cancer on June 25th is happening in your 8th house, the part of your chart that governs shared resources, intimacy, emotional vulnerability, and deep transformation. It's the house of death and rebirth. And this house is about the things that we usually keep private, like psychological baggage or joint finances. It's about trust and also the process of letting go. And you're being called to set intentions around healing and how you share power or merge with others, whether that be energetically, emotionally, or financially. Maybe you're ready to open up in a close relationship or confront debt or work through something in therapy. Maybe you're ready to shift how you deal with emotional fear and control issues. And what makes this new moon especially important for you is that it's conjunct Jupiter, your chart ruler, who just entered Cancer for the first time in 12 years, and he's exalted there. So that gives this moment extra weight. Jupiter represents your direction in life, your growth, and your belief system. So this new moon isn't just a blip on the radar. And over the next 6 months, you could experience profound personal growth through facing what it is you've avoided. Maybe you begin a healing journey or therapy that begins to reshape your emotional resilience, or you take concrete steps towards financial freedom. But by the time the full moon in Cancer arrives in January of 2026, you may have reclaimed a sense of power that was previously tangled up in fear or debt or just unhealthy dynamics. But growth here doesn't come without tension because this new moon is squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And that's your 5th house of creativity, romance, joy, children, and self-expression. The fifth house is what you create. It's anything you create that comes from your body. And Saturn can bring pressure or limitations around pleasure or around spontaneity. And Neptune here would blur the lines between fantasy and actual fulfillment. So you might feel caught between wanting deep emotional closeness with someone and fearing the loss of independence. Maybe you're asking, can I really trust this person? Can I really be myself? Can I be my full self in this relationship? Or how do I commit to healing without losing my joy? How do I dive deep into these difficult, deep topics without, losing that spark of fun and joy in my everyday life? And you could also be working through blocks around love or around creativity, or even with your children, right? Feeling pressure to be more productive or serious when all you really want is to enjoy life again. And I'm not going to lie, right? Sagittarius has had it very rough the last few years. And although you're hitting a turning point, this square is going to push you to recognize that real healing and transformation doesn't have to be grim or joyless. They just have to be rooted in something real. And your challenge over the next 6 months is going to be to balance emotional depth with lightness, right? To trust in others without losing your sense of self, and to allow pleasure to be part of your growth, not separate from it. So, as you plant seeds during this new moon, be really honest about where you're ready to shed an old skin. Let Jupiter, your chart ruler, guide you towards deeper emotional power and more intentional forms of connection. You don't need to have all the answers right now, but you do need to commit to the process. And the more willing you are to show up for your inner transformation, the more fulfilling and freeing your external life is going to become. So, good luck, my Sagittarius risings. Drop a comment below. Let me know how this is going for you, what you're thinking about, and what you see happening over the next 6 months. Good luck. All right. Capricorn rising. So, if you're a Cap rising, then the new moon in Cancer on June 25th is lighting up your 7th house of one-on-one relationships, right? This is an important area of the chart. And it governs all your partnerships, closest one-on-one relationships that are governed by a contract. So that's romantic, marriage, business, or just close partnerships of all kinds. And this is a moment to set new intentions around how you relate to others, right? What you're willing to give and what you need in return. Whether you're starting a new relationship or deepening a current one or just reassessing your boundaries in this area altogether. The new moon puts your connections front and center. And you might be ready to commit at this time or have an honest conversation with a partner or begin to finally open up and open yourself up to real partnership after a season that was, marked by a lot of solitude and focus on the self. And with exalted Jupiter sitting right on top of this new moon and ruling expansion and opportunity and generosity, there's a hopeful energy here. And you might feel more open-hearted at this time or more optimistic about love than you normally are, and just more willing to meet someone halfway in your relationships. And if you're single, if you're single, this is a strong time to clarify the kind of partner that you truly want. And then you could begin attracting that energy into your life once you've clarified that. And if you're already partnered, you might be entering a new chapter with that person, right? Whether that's moving in together, making a new joint decision, getting married, or maybe navigating a new level of emotional honesty together. And over the next 6 months, the way you show up in your closest relationships could evolve and change in a really big way. And it would come to a culmination point in January of 2026 with the full moon in Cancer. That's when the story is going to come to a head. But all of that is good. But here's where it gets a little more complex and complicated. the new moon is squaring Saturn and Neptune in your fourth house, right? Your chart ruler Saturn is involved, so this lands with a little bit of extra weight for you. And the fourth house rules home, family, your emotional roots, and your inner sense of safety. So this tension suggests that the relationships you're investing in now are going to challenge or reshape your definition of home and emotional security, right? Like if you're married, your family may not like you having a girlfriend, or maybe you're single and you bring home your significant other, and maybe your family doesn't approve of your choices, right? Or you're struggling to create emotional safety in your living environment. All of these are possibilities. And Neptune here adds a layer of fogginess or uncertainty. So you may be idealizing, this relationship or this relationship dynamic in a way that it doesn't actually exist. And you might also find yourself questioning where you truly belong, right? Are you building relationships that support your growth, or ones that keep you tethered to an outdated version of yourself? And Saturn wants structure and maturity, but Neptune is going to blur those lines. So you may be pulled between this desire to commit and the fear of losing yourself in this relationship. And over the next 6 months, part of your work is going to be leaning into and learning how to build relationships that feel both emotionally supportive but also practically sustainable. So, as you set intentions during this new moon, you need to be honest about the kind of relationship that you're truly ready for and looking for, and what needs to change in your home or foundation in order to make space for that. And with your chart ruler Saturn involved, this is about building something real and lasting, not just chasing connection for the sake of it. And relationships are going to be growing now, but they're going to require you to do that emotional work at home as well. And the good news is that if you're willing to build, on the home front as well as relationships, right, from the inside out, then you can create real partnerships out there that are built to last. So good luck, my Capricorns. If this resonated with you, or you have an idea of how this may start to play out over the next 6 months, please drop a comment below. I'm very curious about this one. And good luck. Okay, Aquarius rising. So for you, the new moon in Cancer on June 25th is happening in your 6th house of work habits, health, service, daily routines. This is a very practical new moon for you, and it's going to ask you to focus on how you're living day to day. You might be setting intentions around improving your physical health, or creating a more manageable work schedule, or getting more organized, or simply being more consistent with your habits. So whether it's as small as meal prepping every week, or as big as overhauling your job structure or your health routine, this new moon is saying that your lifestyle is the foundation of everything else, and it needs to get working for you. And because this new moon is conjunct an exalted Jupiter, who brings optimism and growth and expansion, there's a lot of support for creating these new systems that are actually going to nourish you. This isn't about hustle culture. It's about building habits that protect your energy and support your well-being, and ultimately bring structure to your day-to-day life, right? Maybe you finally hire help, or switch to a different role that has better hours for you, or find a sustainable workout routine that fits into your day-to-day work schedule or life schedule. Or maybe you just start managing your stress in a more conscious way. However this plays out for you, over the next 6 months, these seeds can blossom into real, tangible lifestyle changes. And they would culminate with the full moon in Cancer. And that's happening in January of 2026. And it's where clear results are going to start to show, right? Improved health, better work stability, or just more peace in your day-to-day life. But there's a square to watch out for. Saturn, your chart ruler, and also Neptune are both sitting in your third house of communication, your mindset, how you learn, your siblings, and your local environment. So this tension may show up as mental overwhelm or unclear thinking or just feeling weighed down by information overload. Maybe you're trying to build a healthier routine or tweak your job schedule, but you have so many tasks in your local environment that you're running around crazy. Maybe you want to take better care of yourself, but your mental habits, right, like scattered focus or poor boundaries with your daily demands, are getting in the way. And Saturn here is asking you to get more disciplined with your thinking and your schedule. But Neptune can fog your ability to prioritize what matters most, or to focus on what's actually helpful. And the square is a reminder that you can't fix your routines without addressing your mental patterns, right? Are you overthinking things or taking on too much in your local environment, too many side projects, too many errands to run, right? Are you constantly plugged into other people's needs and being pulled in too many directions at once? Because if you are, then even the best wellness plan is going to fall apart. And you're being pushed to clean up your mental clutter alongside your physical routines. And that may mean setting limits on communication or people in your local environment or your tasks or with your siblings, and just being more intentional with your daily to-do list, right? You're being asked to cut out the distractions that are draining you in the everyday. So as you set intentions during this new moon, think about how to bring more peace and structure and purpose into your everyday life. This isn't about being perfect, but it is about blending, honesty and being yourself and evaluating what's not working. And with your chart ruler Saturn involved, it's a chance to make changes that stick, because Saturn makes changes for the long haul and what is meant to last. And over the next 6 months, the more you anchor yourself into these healthy systems, whether they're mental or physical, then the more space you're going to create for real progress, both at work and also as it relates to your overall well-being and health. So, Aquarius risings, good luck. Please let me know how this is playing out for you and what intentions that you're setting to manifest in January. Good luck. Okay, my favorite Pisces rising. So for you, the new moon in Cancer on June 25th is lighting up your 5th house of creativity, romance, pleasure, entrepreneurial pursuits, children, and self-expression, right? This is the part of the chart that's focused on joy and creativity. And the energy here is asking you to reconnect with what makes you happy on your terms. You may be setting intentions now to revive your creative spark, or to prioritize fun again, or deepen a romantic connection, or just make time for something that feels genuinely fulfilling, or make time for a new entrepreneurial pursuit that feels more like fun than work, like a personal hobby. And whether it's starting a passion project or getting back into dating or just spending more intentional time with your kids, you're being asked to do more of what makes you feel alive. And the new moon is about reclaiming that joy. And not as a luxury, but as something that's essential. Because we all need joy in our life. And Jupiter, your traditional chart ruler, just entered Cancer on June 9th. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So with Jupiter sitting right next to the new moon, this marks a new chapter of growth in how you express yourself and how you share your heart with the world. You may find yourself more inspired at this time and more open to love, or just more willing to take creative risks. And if you felt disconnected from your spark lately, this is your chance to bring it back. And over the next 6 months, that energy can build into something very real. And by the time the full moon in Cancer hits in January of 26, you may have completed a really exciting creative endeavor or entrepreneurial project, or grown a romantic connection, or just simply feel more lit up and happy in life, which is great. But unfortunately, it's not all sunshine and rainbows because this new moon is being squared by Saturn and Neptune, both in Aries, both sitting in your second house of money, values, and self-worth. And Saturn here is putting pressure on your finances and asking you to be more realistic about what you can afford, both literally as well as energetically. And Neptune, your modern chart ruler, might be clouding your sense of value or making it hard to see what is actually worth investing in. So while your heart may be pulling you towards creativity and joy and fun with your kids and romance, your bank account or inner critic might be saying, no, we can't do that right now. And this tension between your desire to have fun and play and enjoy the lighter side of life and your need for security can feel frustrating, right? Maybe you want to invest in a new creative project or a new entrepreneurial pursuit, but you feel unsure if it'll pay off. And maybe you're pursuing love at this time or fun, but you're haunted by fears of not being enough for the relationship or not having enough. And Saturn demands structure, but Neptune blurs reality. So together they can challenge you to try to find that middle ground between fantasy and responsibility, which is hard, and you would have to do so without completely shutting down your joy and what's making you happy in the process. So as you plant seeds during this full moon, you have to make room for what really lights you up, but do it in a way that honors your current reality. You're being called to take your joy seriously because when you do, it can reshape your sense of worth and stability in very powerful ways. But you have to stay realistic. And over the next 6 months, you have to choose to invest in your happiness, but also keep your feet on the ground as you do it. So, Pisces, good luck. I think it's going to be a very exciting time. And if that resonated, or you have an idea how this is playing out for you, or what intentions that you are going to set at this new moon, please drop a comment below and let me know. I would love to hear. Good luck. Okay, that's the breakdown of this new moon in Cancer and how it's going to affect your chart by rising sign. Just remember that whatever it is that you're setting into motion now has real long-term potential, but it's coming with a reality check, right? This new moon in Jupiter wants to grow something big and meaningful for you in your Cancer part of the chart. But Saturn wants you to do it on solid ground, and Neptune might be blurring the lines and adding a layer of fog to what's real or what's achievable. So good luck. If this hit home for you or resonated, please drop a comment below. Let me know how it's showing up in your life. I want to hear. I try to read all the comments, and honestly, liking and comment goes a real long way in helping with the algorithm and getting my videos in front of more astrology lovers like yourself. So I appreciate that. And if you're ever looking for a personal reading, all of the booking details are linked below. And thanks for watching. And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks again. I will see you in the next one.